Hello, and welcome to So You Think You Can Rule Persia, the podcast where we rated and reviewed all the kings of Persia from Antiochus to Yazdegerd III. Today, welcome to the second set of rounds, part 2. I'm Sariel, and my pronouns are they, them.
And I'm Umberto, my pronouns are he, him. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the last of the rounds, actually. I mean, afterwards we only have semifinals and then the final.
True.
After this episode, there's 3 left, and then the grand finale, and then we just know who the kingiest of all kings, the king of kings is. We'll just get to have the final revelation. We know what you can recommend to your friends when you tell them, hey, you should listen to this podcast I listen to. No, trust me. I know it's a history thing, but they're cool.
They're still nice, despite the history.
Yeah, exactly. They're all right. So today we get to decide which 2 people end up in the remaining slots of the semifinals among Seleucus I, Kavad I, Bahram VI, Antiochus the Great, and Musa. Sariel, without telling me who, do you have any favorites that you think are definitely going to make it through? Some that you think are definitely not going to make it through?
I don't know how Musa is going to fare against... Wait, who... Can you repeat who it is again?
There's Seleucus I,
Right.
Kavad I, Bahram VI, Antiochus the Great, and Musa.
I feel terrible that, I'm gonna have to be reminded once again of who these people are. I'm so bad at names.
We'll be going through all of it.
Trust me that I actually know. Once you tell me, I actually know, but I am so bad at names.
I trust that you remember the vibes, but yeah.
Yeah. Let's figure it out.
Because I have one person I think is definitely going to make it through, one person I think is definitely not going to make it through. Let's see if I'm right.
Okay.
I think the second place is between 3, so it's we'll
place your bets now.
Who's going to get there? Yeah, we'll find out. But speaking of bets, Sarah, we need to find out if people agreed with our decision in the last round. I put up a poll on our social media and our Discord for people to see who they think should have passed from our previous round of Darius the Great, Mithridates the Great, Khosrow I, Shapur I, and Khosrow II. Well, it looks like we went with the obvious choice, Sariel, because they kind of, our audience agrees with us mostly. Because 45% of people thought that Darius the Great should have gone through. 35% thought that it was going to be Khosrow II. 15% thought it was going to be Shapur I. 5% thought it was Khosrow I, and nobody thought Mithridates II was going to make it through.
Yeah.
Which kind of matches with what we expected. I think we sort of excluded them in that order, roughly. So, we were in tune with our audience that time. Let's see if this time will be as well. But first, we need to go through the last of our rounds, the last of our categories, which is lengthiness. So we'll have to see who are the longest reigning rulers and who are the shortest reigning rulers in our podcast so far. Are there any that you remember in particular, Sariel? Anybody especially long-lived or short-lived that you could guess is on the podium?
As in, from this round?
From all the podcasts.
Oh. Like for finalists? Or...
No, just everyone. I mean, the lowest reigns are definitely not finalists, except...
Yep.
No, none of them are. I thought one has a high score. We'll get to it.
Yeah, but it's a different thing. Yeah. Okay, so who...
Yeah, but isn't a Shahanshah.
I mean... Okay, Darius reigned for a long time. Who was one of the first ones that, broke our scale? That was the only one that, had to be given 10 out of 5 or something like that. I can't remember.
Because our scale is out of 5, so it's 50 years. You are right, Sariel. Antiochus is in the top 5 rulers because he reigns for a really long time because he's basically mythical. So he can do whatever he likes.
Exactly. Yeah, I remember that for one of the first rulers, we were like, okay, so this one doesn't fit in the scale. We're just gonna put it anywhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's one. And then anybody else that comes to mind, especially long-lived or short-lived?
I know Darius ruled for a long time. I think.
He's not in the top 5.
But this is top 5 for time ruling, right?
For time.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
Right.
Oh God, who reigned? Was it Antiochus the Great? Who
Antiochus the Great didn't rule very long.
The
actually.
baby.
He reigned for like.
Yeah, the child emperor who actually like reigned for a long time.
Antiochus the child, you mean? Oh no, that one is Shapur II.
No, that's
Shapur
the one that
II
was
up to,
yeah, that the one was crowned in the womb. But didn't one Antiochus also like?
Antiochus the Great was like crowned when he was 16 and reigned for a while, but yeah, it was like.
But yeah, Shapur has to be there, right?
Shapur is definitely there.
Yes.
So okay, let's go in order, Serial, and see how our rulers did in age and if that correlates well with their scores.
See, I remember enough, just not enough to be good at the trivia. Because if someone asks me for specifics, I can't know, but I would know what to like look up. If you
can give off a vibe. It's like which was the one that was crowned in the womb. It's like yes, that dude.
Exactly.
We're there.
I know enough to then be able to go to an encyclopedia and look it up, or go to Google and look it up.
Yeah. But yeah, so our top longest ruling ruler is Shapur II, as you imagined, as he was crowned in the womb and reigned for 70 years. Since we don't really have the exact months, he may have reigned longer or less than Queen Elizabeth II, but that is the scale that you must imagine. It's basically the one that everybody knew is just the king. That's just him forever. And generations have lived and died under his reign. And he's one of our top scorers, although we did kick him out in the first set of rounds. We thought he didn't have that pizzazz that gets him beyond. But he did get 78 points out of 100, making him not only one of our top scorers, but our second scorer, so second overall. So clearly he uses time well. Next up is Diocles, as I mentioned. It was 53 years. He had a total score of 32.8, so kind of did a reasonable job. But hey, the empire was just starting. There was no kingdom of Media at all. He just devised the concept of a kingdom. So,
true.
Reasonable enough to get there. Third place got excluded just last round because that is Khosrow I with 48 years of reign, which is very, very impressive. 48 years of extreme competence, extreme skill, and he got a total of 74.8 out of 100, making him the third highest scorer just after Shapur, the second.
Mm-hmm.
And then fourth place, we have somebody who wasn't very good, Artaxerxes II Mnemon, who ruled for 46 years for a total score of 26.1.
How come?
He was also one of our worst rulers in total.
Yeah.
Because the empire almost fell under him, and he just got lucky multiple times that the right people died at the right time for the empire to be saved.
Exactly. I'm like, how is he one of the longest rulers if everything was terrible? I don't understand.
He was just very lucky. Like, a lot of people that were problematic just died, and everything was fine afterwards.
Got saved.
You just need to be lucky from time to time. That's an important skill. And fifth and last of these top scorers is Vologases IV, who reigned for 44 years. Vologases IV, you'll remember him as the guy who basically refounded the Parthian Empire after a period of crisis. He had this coup that we know nothing about, and apparently he consolidated power well enough that he managed to rule for several decades and sort of restabilize the empire after the chaos that was going on with Trajan and all that, and the empire splitting into 3 parts, which was not ideal, as you can imagine. And he got a total score of 48.4, which is alright, nothing to write home about, but decent enough at least. Instead, Serial, we come to our lowest scorers, the ones whose reign was as short as possible. And curiously enough, among these people with short reigns, there is one that has quite a high score, and everybody else has scores below 10, mostly below 5. Can you remember who somebody who ruled a very short time but had a high score is? Does anyone come to mind?
Alexander.
No. This is way shorter.
Way
than
shorter?
Alexander,
Okay,
Serial.
because I'm like, we gave Alexander a really high score, but,
Yeah, no. Alexander reigned for like 13 years or so. Okay. These people are measured in days.
Oh, God. Who was, like, extremely shocking then? Like...
Yeah, basically.
I assume they weren't, like, there's no way they were good for the Empire, because in that short a time, like, it can't be. So it has to be...
I don't think any of these had many scores.
It has to be scheminess and shock factor, and maybe military.
Yeah. I will give you a hint. It was towards the end of our podcast.
Let me look at my portraits. I don't know.
I think your portrait would give you a good hint. I think if you look at your portrait, you would guess it.
I know Azarmidokht was intense.
Yeah, she reigned for like a number of months, which is fine.
But yeah, exactly. Okay, it wasn't that short.
Yeah.
We also had the thing with Yazdegerd III where we like gave him like he actually had quite a bit of Ehrenstein even though the Empire ends. I think.
He tried his best, and also he lasted for quite a long time.
Yeah.
He was mostly running and fighting and running and fighting, but he lasted for years.
I don't know. Was it Ardashir?
Hold the Empire together.
The third? I don't.
It was actually just after Ardashir III. It was
Sharbaraz. Okay. Because I'm like, Ardashir III was a child. So that's,
Yeah, but he reigned for like a year and a bit. So that's fine. So, Sarah, let's go through them in order. So, the one who ruled the least of all of them was Xerxes II.
Yes, I remember that.
He reigned for a grand total of 40 days with a score of 3.01.
Got immediately murdered. I remember.
Yep. Shortly after him is Sharbaraz, who reigned 43 days for a grand total of 48.5, which makes him an extremely high scorer because he did a lot of cool military things, he did a lot of schemy things, he was extremely shocking, horrifying for the Empire, but still very impressive overall. So he did a cool job there. Good for him. And then after him, we have Antiochus the Child in third place, who ruled between 59 and 88 days. We're not sure. We know that he took the throne at the start of September and then was dethroned sometime in November. So that's broadly the range we're in. And he had a total score of 4.76. Not a good time. Antiochus the Child would probably have been happier not being king. But hey, that's the world he lived in.
He didn't get to choose.
And then in 4th, 5th, and 6th place, or perhaps tied for 4th place, we have 3 different rulers who reigned for an estimated quarter of a year. We don't know exact dates, but we know they reigned for roughly a quarter of a year, which is 91 days, so slightly above Antiochus the Child. And these are in order. Shapur IV, with a score of 5.025 out of 100. He was the one that came after Yazdegerd I. There was a bit of a civil war. He was dethroned by Khosrow the Usurper and killed. He tried to take over from Armenia, failed miserably. 5th place is Shapur V, Shapur son of Sharbaraz. So congratulations to the dynasty of Sharbaraz for having 2 of the lowest reigning rulers in all of Iranian
Listen, we
history.
were like things were happening.
Guys. It was messy.
At the end, I was also just like losing my mind. Like we would have episodes about 4 months at a time.
It was a tough time.
The end of an empire is always messy.
Although I have seen it is not the worst period in Iranian history for successions. So, yeah, stuff happens in the future. But anyway, Shapur V took control after his father was murdered and had to juggle Azarmidokht and Borandokht and did some messes. The empire was falling apart under him, so meh. So he reigned for about 91 days and a total score of 3.025 out of 100. And then 6th place is Khosrow the Usurper, who overthrew Shapur IV just above. And Khosrow the Usurper has the special distinction of being the worst king we have ever had, the least interesting, the one with the least points, because he only got points for his lengthiness of 91 days. So his total score was 0.025 out of 100, making him very, very embarrassing.
That's
because
sad.
my dude, come on. Because he was a puppet, he failed to hold the throne, just made everything worse, overthrew somebody, and was quickly overthrown. So, no points for you, my man. You're terrible. But okay, now, Sarah, let's look at lengthiness. Who do you think? Does anybody come to mind? Who do you think had the highest lengthiness, who had the shortest? Is there any dynasty that you think reigned longer than others, or some that reigned less than others?
I feel like some of our very early kings, since there's a lot of mythology around them, like they might have some of the longest reigns. And then what was like a more or less stable era? I guess, God, I have no idea if it's the Parthians or the Seleucids, or like I have such trouble remembering who belongs to what.
I mean, the Parthians had a bunch of civil wars. The Seleucids, I don't know if they were stable, but they did have periods of reasonable succession. Yeah, I think at least before the Romans got involved.
Yeah, they had the most like normal succession, where it's like, okay, this king dies, this is the heir, and it was more,
Yeah. Okay, well, let me reveal to you, Sarah. We have that the top lengthiness people, as you mentioned, are the medians, with an average of 3.68, so 37 years of lengthiness overall. Because, as you mentioned, they are mostly mythical. We have a bunch of kings that have like roughly 40-year reigns, because that's what Herodotus is telling us, and we have no better sources, so might as well.
Yeah.
I suppose that's fine, yeah. Second place are the Achaemenids. The Achaemenids also had reasonably stable succession, at least at the start of the empire, before it all came crumbling down. But yeah, they had an average of 1.72 of lengthiness, so about 17 years of reign in general. So very good second place. Then our third place, Serial, I am surprised to say, is the Parthians, the Arsacids. They had 13.7 years on average, so 1.37 of lengthiness, which I wouldn't have expected due to all the civil wars, but, apparently they had enough long, stable periods.
Interesting.
Weirdly enough, the ending of the empire, though it's terribly unstable, it had high stability for the kings that were on the throne at the time. Like, the empire was on fire, but the king that was there for a long time. So there we go. Place 3. But coming up really rapidly behind them, in fourth place, are the Seleucids, which you mentioned, which are instead just 0.1 of a year behind the Arsacids on average, because they have a 1.36 out of 5 for lengthiness, for an average of 13.5 years per rule. Next up are the Sassanids with 1.29 out of 5, so almost 13 years on average as rule. I think the last rulers at the end really dragged this number down, because that was just a mess. Because, oh no, there's just like, we had 4 years with about 13 successions. It was a mess, so understandable that will be lower. But lowest of all, Serial, are finally the Argeads, so the family of Alexander the Great, where they have an average of 0.9 of lengthiness, which is about 9 years on average as a rule, because, well, Alexander didn't reign very long, and his heirs were mostly dealing with constant civil wars and a mess, so meh. But we do have some small changes if we look at the Bayesian adjusted mean, so I'll just go through the order. Medians are first again, Achaemenids second again, But here instead it says that the Seleucids, for the amount of time that they reigned, were better than the Arsacids overall by a small amount. Because the Arsacids do reign for, well, it's about 400 years. The Seleucids only have a couple hundred years. So for the time they had, the Seleucids are doing comparably better. Then after them, we have the Argeads with another upset, because in the short amount they had, it was as stable as it could have been. And then in last place, we have the Sassanids, because they reigned for really long and had this terrible crisis at the end. So honestly, they should have been doing better.
Mm-hmm.
So there we go. That is all the lengthiness of our rulers, all in a row. So we've gone through all our categories. And in the future, for the semifinals, we'll have a look at the total scores and the Shahanshah or Shahanah to see which dynasty was most charming, that we believe, at least. So we'll see how that goes in the next times. But now, Serial, it is time to decide amongst our 5 candidates. And as before, as we did last time in our last round, I'm going to give you a brief biography, their alignment according to the algorithm that I developed, and you get to decide, was it spot on, were there differences that should be made, and how these kings stand up. Before, finally, at the end, we will decide who gets to go through and who instead has to stay behind and be mauled in the royal hunt.
Terrible.
So, to start with, we had Seleucus I, Seleucus Nicator. So Seleucus was born as a minor noble king and was eventually involved during the fall of Alexander the Great's empire. He became one of the generals that created their own kingdom. He took 1,000 men from Ptolemy and just conquered Babylon, conquered all the east, made a new empire that would last a couple hundred years. Did a very impressive job there. He actually loved his wife. That was cool. Apama is nice. And he didn't divorce her when everybody else divorced their Iranian wife. So clearly something was all right there. He had a bunch of the wars of the Diadochoi against Antigonus in particular. And he managed to defeat this one general who was trying to unify all the empire through some scheminess, some plots and manipulation, some night attacks. He did a lot of that. He was also a great city builder. He introduced Hellenism to the empire. He gave a new soul to this empire that was mostly Iranian, and also through the marriage with his Iranian wife, having sort of a mixed Hellenistic and Iranian son, he sort of embodied this new spirit of the empire and how it would be developed later on. He had his son strongly integrated into the administration, ready to carry on his father's torch so that the work would be finished properly. And he almost managed to reconquer Alexander the Great's empire before eventually being murdered by a son of Ptolemy and everything just crumbling back into the status quo that we saw. So overall, he had a score of 65.8 out of 100, which was split up in the following way. He had a 6 out of 10 for final moments, 20 out of 20 for battle hardness, 8 out of 20 for scheminess, 8 out of 20 for shock factor, 16 out of 20 for air and shine, 5 out of 5 for face of faces, and a 2.8 out of 5 for lengthiness. And for Seleucus himself, I have put him as neutral good for the empire and true neutral looking at everyone else. Do you think you agree, Serial, or are there other elements that
makes sense? I agree.
Do you think he falls more on the neutral good side or the true neutral? I have a tendency, because I like him, and he's my golden boy, so I would say more neutral good.
Yeah, no, I mean, but, if he deserves the golden boy name, then, I can see that.
Yeah, I'd say he is just one of the nicer of the Diadochoi. He is doing well.
The bar is
doing a good job.
pretty low.
The empire is being built. He's actually doing what Alexander should have done.
Yeah.
He's basically saying, here we have this new empire. We need to combine the different souls of it. Here we go. Here's something new. And it's cool. Also, if you remember, he was such a good ruler that when he was fighting with Antigonus' son, Demetrius, and Demetrius brought an army to try and conquer Syria, Seleucus just went in front of the enemy army, took off his helmet and as an old man and said, do you really want to fight for this loser? I'm building a better future here. Who wants to
Just
join me? And
me,
everybody's
yeah.
like, yeah, honestly, that's a pretty good deal. Let's go.
Join me instead. True.
Yeah, so I think I would agree with neutral good. I feel like he is the type of person who you'd want to follow. I'd follow Seleucus. He seems nice enough. So there we go. Seleucus I, alignment done. Next up is Kavad I. Kavad I was coming up after a terrible period for the Sassanid Empire. It was almost collapsing. It needed the nobles to come and save it from the nomadic threat. He was expected to be a puppet king in this critical period. He had his puppet master Sucra executed and later adopted Mazdakism to try and reforge the empire through monarcho-communism. He was eventually overthrown and imprisoned in the Fortress of Oblivion.
Yeah, this
managed
was
to eventually
intense.
escape the Fortress of Oblivion, which was fun. And he used Hephthalite help to regain the empire. He started some massive reforms in the empire to try and centralize it and reduce reliance on the nobility. He had a one war with Rome that ended in victory, a war with the Hephthalites that ended broadly in victory, with at least the end of the nomad crisis. And then he finally had a last war with Rome that went well enough, but he eventually died.
Yeah.
Also, he ended up going back on his Mazdakite beliefs and sort of dooming the religion to obscurity because it had no longer become useful. He had a total score of 70.1 out of 100, which was divided in the following way. He had a 1 out of 10 for final moments, 14 out of 20 for battle hardness, 15 out of 20 for scheminess, 16 out of 20 for shock factor, 16 out of 20 for air and shine, 4 out of 5 for face of faces, and a 4.1 out of 5 for lengthiness, being very long-lived. He almost made it to our podium, but not quite. And as for him, the algorithm gives him a chaotic neutral for the empire and a chaotic evil for everyone outside of it. Which I definitely see the chaos, like entirely upending the social structure of your empire to reform it. Like, it kind of worked in the end, but it's also just a very ballsy move that almost risked tearing everything apart, so that's intense. And his reforms were very helpful for the empire, but he did eventually just really use the Mazdakites and just end up persecuting them in the end. Yeah. And he also did do the typical thing of go off to the nomads and ask them for help, and then it's like, oh no, wait.
Oh no.
Now they want more.
Consequences.
We should fight them. So, yeah. What are your thoughts on Kavad? Do you think the chaos suits him? Do you think he's more lawful with his reforms? And how do you think he's on the good versus evil axis?
It's complicated. Like, did the reforms, like, were they at the expense of causing harm to other people? Or was it mostly just good?
The reforms were reasonably quite good. I mean, there were eventually the reforms that Khosrow I completed.
Yeah.
Now, we said that eventually these would be somewhat the downfall of the empire because it gives more power to generals.
Yeah.
But it also takes power away from the nobles that had been a massive pain. Yeah. And also just centralizes the empire and allows Khosrow II to really just bring it to its maximum height. So, the golden age of the Khosrows is at the feet of Kavad. But also, maybe the fall of the empire is. But it depends how much you think that centralizing the empire, giving it more power as opposed to the nobles, is a bad thing. And also, you need to look at the method he used. He did use a religious group and then discard them when they were no longer useful. So,
which is very selfish of him.
Yes. Do you think that the reforms that he made, the restructuring of the empire, the keeping it out of the nobles' hands, was essentially justified enough to call him neutral? Or do you think that the way he went about it is a bit too harsh, honestly? A bit evil?
But it was mostly for a good result, right? Well...
Oh, yeah. It ended up with Khosrow, the golden age of the Khosrows. Like, Khosrow I is such a great ruler because Kavad started it. He is essentially the Philip to Khosrow's Alexander.
Yeah. Except if Alexander was, like, actually
competent. Yes.
competent. Yeah. Oh, this is hard. It's almost like these alignments don't cover all of the complexity, you know?
Yeah, it's almost as if humanity is more of a spectrum than just 9 boxes you put people in. But if you had to choose, Sarah, we're going to make
I
more
feel like
difficult choices
lawful
soon.
makes sense, right?
Lawful, really?
Well, did you go for more chaotic?
I went for chaotic for the whole starting a communist revolution
Oh yeah, no,
when
that's
you're
true.
the
That's
king
true.
and saying, this will be fine, it'll be alright, guys.
Yeah, no, that was a weird
fine."
decision. Sorry, I was thinking of like all of the
And also the
reforms.
Fortress of Oblivion and running to the
Yeah,
nomads and all
yeah.
that. Like, you could think he's more neutral.
No,
because
but I
of the
think
whole
I would go
reforms
for
that could be
chaotic
it.
neutral then, because I don't think he's all the way
Chaotic
evil.
neutral? Fair.
He's not good. You know, it has both of the. Like, not because he's truly neutral, but because there's both extremes.
Yeah, exactly. It sort of balances out in the
Yeah.
middle after all. So, very good. Kavad I, chaotic neutral. Next up is Bahram VI. He was a general under Hormuz IV, incidentally the grandson of Kavad. He won a great victory against the Turks. He personally killed the Kagan with an arrow shot from about a kilometer away. That was cool. Wrote manuals on
Yeah,
archery. That was
incredible.
very impressive. Eventually, his loyalty was questioned, and this resulted in an insult that may have been fabricated by him to
Yeah.
actually start the civil war. So, he was the first general to march on Ctesiphon, made himself king of kings, claimed to be the Messiah, and then
Normal
eventually
things,
was
you know.
later defeated, as one does. He was later defeated by Khosrow II and the Romans. He fled to the Turkic lands, where he eventually entered the court and went and became part of the Kagan's inner circle, despite having killed the guy's father a few years prior, and then eventually he was murdered by agents of Khosrow II. His total score is a 54.6 out of 100, which is divided in 6 out of 10 for final moments, 18 out of 20 for battle hardness, 9 out of 20 for scheminess, 13 out of 20 for shock factor, 8 out of 20 for air and shine, 0.5 out of 5 for face of faces, and 0.1 out of 5 for lengthiness. And the algorithm gives him an overall either true neutral or neutral evil, because the whole starting a civil war, kind of chaotic, and the whole plunging the empire into civil war, kind of evil. But he did try and pull it back, I suppose, somewhat. He was serving the empire loyally and helping it out through, defending against the Turks. But overall, I would say he is a net negative for the empire. He's interesting, but ultimately, as his Air and Shine score shows, things were worse off after him, and he just started a bad precedent that would end up in the civil wars that killed the empire. So, I'm more on the evil end. How do you agree, Sarah? Do you think maybe he's more lawful, more chaotic?
No, that sounds correct. I'm not gonna fight you.
So you would agree with a neutral evil. Fair enough. Then, next up, Sarah. Next up is Antiochus the Great, Antiochus III.
Yeah.
He was at the low end of the Seleucid Empire. It was basically just reduced to Syria, and he was a manipulated young 16-year-old, the last of his dynasty. And he managed to outmaneuver 3 potential regents, blaming all on the council and becoming independent, saying, "Oh no, they died horribly because, oh, I'm sorry, it's the council that made me do it. I'm so good and pure, tee-hee."
Not my fault.
He eventually managed to retake Anatolia. He had this great reconquest of Iran, which gave him the epithet of the Great. He was the first major Hellenistic ruler in India since Alexander. He restructured the empire to rejuvenate it and give it strength after the crises it had been through. He took Palestine from the Ptolemies, tried to take control of Greece, ended up in conflict with the Romans, and also the first time we encountered the Romans. He harbored Hannibal.
Yeah, that was
and
nice.
tried to fight against the Romans for a while, but was eventually defeated by Scipio over the Roman end in Anatolia. He lost a lot of progress, but to be fair, the empire was much better off now, and he was eventually killed while taking gold from a temple. He is one of our top scorers as well.
Moment.
No, poor choice, not very good. He was one of our top scorers as well. He is our 4th highest scorer overall with a 74.6 out of 100. He is scored being divided thusly: a 5 out of 10 for final moments, 17 out of 20 for battle hardness, 15 out of 20 for scheminess, 12 out of 20 for shock factor, 17 out of 20 for air and shine, 5 out of 5 for face of faces, and a 3.6 out of 5 for lengthiness. With the algorithm on ultimately giving him a chaotic neutral, because he did try his best, he did a reasonably good job, but it was at the expense of murdering a lot of counselors and all that. And also, he tried to blame everything on the council, and yes, he did restructure the empire, but that was, we thought he was, or rather, the algorithm thought he was chaotic enough to warrant that. Do you feel the chaos in Antiochus's vibes,
sure.
or do you think that...
I feel he is a chaotic ruler.
Yeah. But do you think it's fully chaotic, or do you think he's more on the neutral end?
What would be... what would push him over to neutral?
What push him over to neutral is the fact that he does reform the empire significantly. He reforms the administration.
He makes sane decisions.
The empire. Yeah, he makes sane decisions. He's a good ruler. He is very stable. He doesn't do
True.
He doesn't pull a Kavad and just go, let's burn everything down and rebuild it because we can. He is just very, very methodical, very stable. But then again, the chaos in his heart is also there.
Yes, the chaos in his heart. Oh my God.
Yes. So where do you think he fits? Do you agree with chaotic neutral, or do you think maybe is more true neutral, or maybe more on the good or evil side?
Maybe more neutral makes more sense because he's not fully unhinged.
That's fair. I can see that. He did a lot of plots and a lot of shocking, but I think he is sort of well adjusted enough that it's just true neutral. Yeah. I think he contains multitudes.
Yes.
So yeah. Antiochus the Great, you are a true neutral. And last but not least, though least in score of this group, is Musa.
Oh boy.
The only woman to become, to get a Shah.
My vibe is chaotic evil.
Correct.
Right off the bat. Yeah.
Yes, you're entirely correct, Ariel.
She's the only one where I'm like, yep.
Fair. But yeah, so she's the only woman to get a Shah. She started out as a slave in Italy, was sent over as a gift by Augustus to Phraates IV. She made her way from concubine to queen to the primary wife of the king. Bit by bit, she exiled the princes that would compete with her own son. She then killed her husband when the time was right, became queen regnant and a goddess, managed to diplomatically stop a Roman invasion after capitulating on several client kingdoms, was eventually overthrown, and ended up having an unknown fate. Her overall score is 49.8 out of 100, which was divided as 0 out of 10 for final moments, 2 out of 20 for battle hardness, 18 out of 20 for scheminess, 20 out of 20 for shock factor, 6 out of 20 for air and shine, 3.3 out of 5 for face of faces, and a 0.5 out of 5 for lengthiness. And as you guessed, chaotic evil is what vibe she was given. Not that she was like an evil person, but she was doing a lot for herself, and ultimately it was quite bad for the empire, but, you go, girl.
Yeah. Slay.
So I'm guessing you agree with the chaotic evil
Absolutely.
Alignment. Just pure chaos. And we appreciate her. That's cool. So there we go, Serial. Now that we have cycled through all our rulers, we need to decide which is going to go through. So first of all, after hearing a recap of their lives, is there anybody that you think is definitely making it through or definitely not making it through?
I'm like, I've already forgotten about some, so I'm probably those.
Okay.
Oh no.
So I'll give you a quick recap on all of them. Seleucus I, minor noble, becomes king of a large empire, loves his wife, almost reconquers Alexander's empire, creates a nice and stable empire for all to enjoy.
Yeah, did a good job.
People love him, except he's murdered.
People love him, but someone didn't, I guess. Sorry.
But one guy didn't, yeah. Kavad I, expected to be a puppet king, becomes independent, starts a massive revolution, is imprisoned in the Fortress of Oblivion, manages to escape, comes back with nomads, reconquers the empire, manages to make massive reforms, then uses the Mazdakites and throws them away when he's done. Few wars with Rome, reasonably successful, but nothing incredible. Bahram Chobin, starts as a general, incredible feats of archery, wins against the Turks. He maybe engineers a civil war against his leads, manages to become king of kings, proclaims himself Messiah, is eventually defeated, flees to Turkic lands, where he enters the court, murdered by agents of Khosrow II. Antiochus the Great, oh no, I'm sorry, the council made me do it.
Yeah.
He retakes the empire from its massive low, reestablishes it, allows it to live for another 100 years, has contact with Rome, tries to fight them, but ultimately is defeated, and dies in a slightly embarrassing way, taking gold from a temple.
If that hadn't gone that way, like, it would have been such a
Exactly.
Yeah.
Could have done a much cooler thing, but unfortunately, that's how history turned out. And finally, Musa, we know her, we love her, starts as a slave, works her way up all the way to Queen Regnant, exiles her rivals, kills her husband, becomes a queen and a goddess. Ultimately, kind of underwhelming reign, but very interesting rise.
But incredible that it happened.
Yeah, it's just a few years, but ultimately, she just disappears. We don't know what happened to her. Maybe she ended up in Rome. Yeah. There are some hints that suggest.
I don't know how I feel about the general guy, because the feat of archery is incredible.
Yes.
But otherwise, I think that's the thing I like the most about him.
I feel like Bahram is also the one that at the start I thought he's probably not making it through. Like, he's interesting. I'm glad he got this far. I'm glad I know about him, but I don't think he can compete with the others. Like, he is a novelty, which is cool, but ultimately, meh. So, Serial, do you think we can just kick him out for the time being?
Sadly.
Okay.
Because it is the one thing that I do keep thinking about, but that's the only thing why I like him, you know?
Yeah.
So
Bahram, he is riding through the forest. He's riding, and out of nowhere, an arrow shoots him dead.
Oh no.
Doesn't know where it came from. Who knows?
His own self.
It could have been anyone. Exactly. He was time-traveling arrows shooting them far, far away.
Oh no.
Okay, and for the other Serial, we have 4 left. Anybody you think absolutely has to pass? Anybody you think, no, this person needs to make it through?
Again, I'm a big fan of, is it Antiochus the Great? I just think it's so underwhelming that it goes so badly with the Romans eventually. And, like, the potential,
Yeah. Antiochus the Great is the one that I thought is the one that I would vouch for as having to go through. We can keep him on the side, but I think that I just like his story where he just starts as, well, I did the whole fake out during the actual episode where it's just like, oh, he's just a kid.
Yeah,
what's
exactly.
gonna happen to him?
You
he's
really
just
got
manipulated
me.
by 16 people.
You
and
really
then eventually
got me,
it's like,
and I
oh
still
no,
think
actually
about
he's
it.
called Antiochus the Great and he does a great job and everything is fine until the Romans.
Yeah.
You know, if he had died a year before meeting the Romans, greatest king ever. Congratulations.
Look, I still think about this. I'm still mad. I'm bad at remembering things, but this is one of the things that I'm like, God, this was such a cool episode and such a cool story, and then it just I hate the Romans.
Fizzles out. Yeah. This is the beginning of our hate with the Romans. We hated them for the next
you
700
sent me this
years.
funny Instagram reel yesterday, of someone dressed in Persian military, like antique Persian military garbs, right? And just music on top, and just the caption of like, I can't believe we're at war with the Romans again. It's just this person having a mental breakdown, and I'm like, yeah, I feel this.
That's fair. We're just constantly at war with the Romans forever and ever and ever.
Let me
and
go.
Ever, until finally it falls. At last, Constantinople falls in 1453, and then we never have to see them again. Unless you consider the Ottomans the successors, in which case, okay, fine, they'll be around for a while more.
But they're slightly different.
That's a different conversation. Who knows? So Serial, do you think Antiochus deserves to go through, or is it actually still an option that the others might supersede him? Do you still want to keep him in play and not actually
like
just promote
Antiochus
him
a lot.
immediately?
I'm just really underwhelmed at the last years of his empire. But let's see the rest. because
Okay,
I
we'll
do
see
like his story a lot.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts about Musa? How do
She's
you
just so
think she deserves to go through or not?
she's just so impressive. Like, come on. But
She
also
is fun.
she
I
reigns
like
for
her.
very little. And like, I mean,
True.
there's a lot of misogyny behind her story, of course, and like how people
Mhm.
might think about her, which is why I'm also like biased in the other way of being like, no, vouching for this, and like, because I'm pretty sure it's a part of the history that is not usually talked about.
Yeah, nobody ever talks about Musa. I mean, to be fair, it is because, at least for the Empire, she isn't especially influential. She is very influential negatively because she gives Rome a
Yep.
bunch of puppet kings they can throw at Parthia for 50 years.
Yeah. But like,
But
she's
she is
so
very
what the
cool.
like how yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't. She reigned for so little time and had such a minor influence overall. Like, yeah, I don't know if
Yeah,
she
we
will
can
go
see.
past the round.
Okay, well,
She already
let's
made it
review
up
other
to
ones.
here, which, like,
It's pretty impressive. She defeated Cyrus. I mean, come on.
I know because I love her.
That's intense. Yeah.
That's my own bias. Also, because Cyrus has already had all of the. I know people are mad about it, but I'm like, listen,
Cyrus has the publicity.
you
It's
already
fine.
know about Cyrus. Like, wouldn't it be
Exactly.
cool if
Nobody
you
knows
if
about
you
Musa.
ask
She deserves more
somebody
of a spotlight.
about the Persian Empire? Wouldn't it be cool if they tell you like, oh, actually, like here's a different king. That is not the first
Yeah.
thing that is gonna pop up if you Google.
Mm.
Because like it's wild to me that Cyrus is the because it's like if you talk about the Roman Empire and you're like, oh yeah, do you know about like I don't know Aeneas coming from Troy, and it's like and having Romulus and Remus, and it's like, well, that's the founding myth, but that's not like the Roman Empire, like that's not even the Republic. That's
Yeah,
just
it's a different vibe. Yeah. It's
this is how
very
I
lost
feel.
in the mists of history.
I know it's not the
Yeah.
same. Okay, don't come for me, but like
To be fair, Cyrus was also raised by a wolf, according to
yeah,
some myths like
exactly.
Romulus and Remus. So it counts.
But yeah.
Or a dog, actually. It wasn't a wolf, dog. But yes, anyway. But yeah, so instead, okay, Kavad, Great Revolution, chaos, oh my goodness, and builds the foundation for a golden age. Do you think he is to be excluded, or no, actually is pretty good? He deserves this top spot.
Kavad is he the one in the Fortress of Oblivion?
Yes, that's him.
Yeah.
He has a whole escape from the Fortress of Oblivion, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean that is so Count of Monte Cristo.
It is very good, yes. Yeah, he escapes, he gathers an army to fight, and there's this whole thing.
That's why.
And just the whole Mazdakite
Yeah.
reform and everything is just wild to me that this actually happened. It's just such an unexpected thing, which is very fun. But yeah, do you think it's any better or any worse than the other rulers? Do you think it's are you more likely to talk about Kavad? Because ultimately, what are we deciding?
Yeah, like
We're
who
deciding
you would talk
who
about
has the
with
best
somebody,
story.
yeah.
Who is the one that you would, somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, give me the top 4 kings I should listen to."
Yeah.
About an episode, and it's like, okay, we already have Darius and Khosrow II.
Which yes,
Those
I
are the
agree.
top 4. Those are pretty good.
I think Antiochus
who do you think should
there.
meet
Antiochus
that
the Great.
pantheon?
But that's also because it's a great episode of ours. Like
Yeah, exactly. That's fair.
We did great.
Also true.
And the escape from the Fortress of Oblivion is just such a good story.
That's very fun. But then we also have, since we just skipped him real quickly, we have Seleucus. He's the golden boy of the Diadokoi. He basically follows Alexander's dream and is Alexander but competent.
Yeah.
So he's very cool. He tries to reunify the empire. He actually builds an empire. He builds the empire that Alexander conquered. So that's very impressive. There are less wacky stories like Kavad, or fewer wacky stories. But yeah, so, Sarah, do you want to canonize Antiochus as going through?
Oh god, like I like all of them.
Only 2 of these 4 can pass. We've already excluded Bahram Chobin. That's a good job.
They all have reasons.
Yeah.
Because Seleucus, like, why would you put Seleucus over the rest, for example? Because I think it would also be good to like show someone who has a stable reign and who like has like a golden age, right? Like
Yeah, I feel like
that's
Seleucus
satisfying.
is just. The one of the cool things about Seleucus is that, well, I was about to say is that he starts from nothing and goes up, but he's in a round with Musa, so that doesn't
Exactly.
really count.
Sorry.
It's like, well, she didn't start with her own freedom, so
Yeah.
yeah, Seleucus, you start as a minor noble. That's not super high, but still, it's a different category.
Yes.
So, but I mean, the cool thing is that Seleucus, he starts with very little, he builds up an empire, and it lasts for centuries after him. And he just does an incredible job at administering everything and is just extremely competent overall. And also seems to have been a reasonably nice person.
Yeah.
I like the story of him and Apama. I ship them.
Yeah. I like a good benevolent king. Is it an interesting story though?
I mean, I do like, again, I like tragic figures. I like the
Yeah.
fact that he starts from nothing and then eventually almost reunites Alexander's empire. He is about to go retire in Macedon where he was once born, and then he is stabbed in the back by this son
That's
of Ptolemy.
horrible, yeah.
And he just loses at the end. I
Because
feel
there's
like that's
also
quite
no
dramatic,
reason why he
and I
should have
like
been
it.
stabbed. Like people
No,
did
exactly.
like him.
It's
It's
just
not
like
that, you know.
this. No, it was just like this opportunistic son, which is a terrible person. Listen to the Alexander Standard if you want to know more about Ptolemy Karanos. But he's just a horrible, horrible man.
Yes. God.
And Seleucus was just doing a good job and he just gets stabbed.
That is a tragic
So
story, actually.
I think out of all the rulers that we have in this category, Seleucus is the one that, on his own strength, on his own merit, managed to have the longest lasting legacy. I feel like Kavad needed Khosrow to finish his work,
Yeah.
but he started something great. Antiochus the Great, as we saw, he stabilizes the empire, but it's not a golden age. After him, it's downhill.
Such
And
bad
Musa,
luck.
well, she doesn't really do much
Yeah.
for the empire.
Who did we pass someone already?
I don't know. You were saying maybe we should pass Antiochus the Great.
Oh yeah, no, but we haven't yet. We haven't yet.
That was
No,
unsure.
I was just
We haven't yet.
comparing
No,
everyone
still.
to everyone. So we have two.
No,
Like,
still,
we get
still.
two votes.
We've just kicked out Bahram Chobin. Yes.
Yeah.
So we have 2 places to assign here.
Okay. I think my inclination is. Oh god, but Kavad. Oh no.
Kavad is great. I love Kavad.
I genuinely do not know. I think Kavad's story is so cool. And I think Antiochus the Great story is
very
so cool.
fun.
And I think Seleucus is also so cool. I don't know. What are we?
But based on what you're saying, I feel like you're kicking out Musa.
Yeah.
Okay.
I am, because we've talked plenty about her. And I still think it's an episode that I would recommend to people, but maybe not as an example of like your usual Persian ruler. Like
Yes.
that makes sense, right?
She's not top tier. Yeah. But
She's not. She's the exception, but like that's also why I want people to listen to her episode, because she's incredible. If self-serving, but like who wouldn't be? Like she's just smart.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, she's doing what she can with
Exactly.
the little that she's given. So unfortunately, our poor darling Musa, she rides off into the sunset. She is mauled by 16 different bears.
no.
Honestly, they just didn't like the fact that a woman was in charge. She ends poorly. And the Roman historians will write nothing about her because they're
But that
so annoyed
speaks more
with
about
a
the
woman
romance.
being in charge of something. Yeah. Musa's like Cleopatra, but better.
Yeah,
Controversial take. Of
Yeah,
the day.
quite a statement.
Let's
I
go
was
on.
like, "Are you gonna?" Okay, I
Yeah.
am not responsible.
look at me. I'm a Ptolemaic princess. I know 3 languages. Oh, look at me. I'm a slave. I know nothing. And I was transplanted to a new kingdom. And I made myself a goddess. Who's better than that? Come on.
I
Anyway.
do not envy your mentions on social media.
Yes. Yes, fight me, Cleopatra fans. Anyway. We have 3 people left. Seleucus I, Nicator, Kavad I, and Antiochus the Great. Who do we pass and who do we kick out?
No.
We have 2 places, 3 candidates. So tell me, let's talk this out. Let's do talk therapy for this. Serial, What do you like about Seleucus and what do you not like about Seleucus?
I find Seleucus a bit more boring, but also his story is quite cool, and I do love a story where like things actually go well, and someone gets to like have a sort of a golden age of the empire.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, and instead, Kavad. What do you like and dislike about Kavad?
I keep forgetting. Apart from the uh Fortress of Oblivion, the rest of his deal. So that's not good sign.
There's just the whole there's the whole Mazdakai uprising.
Yes, true.
Deciding
The
communism
weird,
is the solution to the
weird
nobles.
communist take.
Yeah, and then just he also does massive reforms of the empire to try and just push away the nobles. So he's just, as opposed to Seleucus, who is a founder, Kavad is a reformer. So he has a broken system and is trying to fix it.
Yeah.
Seleucus starts with the ashes of war and has to build up something new. So that's a bit of a contrast between the two.
True.
But okay, Kavad, you're slightly less, I see you're a little bit less keen. And then Antiochus the Great, likes and dislikes.
God, just with him, I love him. I love his story. I had a great time at the episode because I did not expect the twist. I think he's so unlikely. And I just wish his reign would have ended in a better way. Because then it would be an instant yes, obviously.
Yeah.
But
I also like that there's a Hannibal cameo in his
like
story.
It has
just
everything.
Hannibal just pops up. It's like, hello.
But man, the losing to the Romans.
Yeah, that's harsh. So, if you would agree, Sarah, I would say we push Antiochus III, Antiochus the Great, forward because it's a good enough, it's a dramatic enough story that I think it deserves a little more in the spotlight.
But then who are we?
Okay, so Antiochus the Great manages to down 3 antelope. He is almost chased out of the field by a 4th antelope, but this time he manages to sort of like make his way to safety because this antelope looked kind of Roman.
Sure, like antelopes do. Sure.
Yeah, as they do.
It had a laurel crown.
And okay, well, last serial, the choice is Seleucus Nicator. Solid competence over decades, establishing something new, loving your wife, and basically reconquering Alexander's empire but failing. Or Kavad I, radical revolution because why not, escaping the Fortress of Oblivion, using the nomads against his empire, defeating the nobles, starting a great reform that will, either bring the empire to new heights or destroy it, and then having a average military record. So winning some wars against the nomads, winning against the Romans,
nothing terrible,
and giving the basis for a new golden age. I have a slight leaning.
I know.
I don't know, Sarah, what you have.
The thing is, I know you love Seleucus, so why don't we go with him? I love Kavad as well. I think we could go either way, but I feel like, you also run this podcast, so you also should put your bias in there.
I would say I feel like I have a slight bias for Seleucus. My heart cries for Kavad because I sponsored him in the Shopware the second round.
Yeah.
Because it's like, but it's so cool. I want to tell people about this.
Because it's true.
I would say, I think I just like Seleucus. Seleucus is like a king I would like to live under. Kavad sounds like too chaotic for my taste. I thought
you were going to say a king you would like to be. And I'm like, hell yeah.
I mean, perhaps. I have not yet had a throne to try for, so I don't know.
You would be an excellent king, I have to say.
Thank you. Sponsor me if anybody is a free army they'd like
I think
to
you would
give
have
for
a terrible
throne.
time because you're too.
I think I would probably be murdered very quickly, but that's a separate thing. I mean, Seleucus got murdered, so peas in a pod. But yeah, so Serial, I think we've come to a conclusion. Kavad I, he tries to hide away in the Fortress of Oblivion from the lions that are assaulting him, but ultimately there's too many. They eventually take him over. All the lions have the crests of different noble families. Is this is this random or is it not? Who knows?
I did love that Kavad took power from the nobles. I am always a big fan of that.
Always important. while Seleucus instead, riding on an elephant, manages to destroy all his competition. He is the elephant master. He has managed to give up India with peace and makes it to the semifinals. So now, Sarah, we know what the semifinals are going to be like, because we have an exciting new matchup. Oh goodness, oh goodness. We have our semifinal 1, semifinal A, I'll figure out what to call it, is Darius the Great versus Seleucus Nicator. The basically founders of two different empires. Very impressive.
Easy.
Very cool. Easy choices. And semifinal B, or 2, is Khosrow Parviz, Khosrow II against Antiochus the Great.
Oh,
two stories with tragic endings when they got very close to the sun.
I hate that they're so similar. This is going to be so hard.
Yeah. It's a good matchup. I like the thematic equalities. So there we go. And these are going to be the semifinals we'll get to before the grand final at last. At the end of our second semifinal, we will have a very quick mini baby final for bronze. So we get to have the top 4 ranked in order, but we have our top 4 rulers now, Sergio. We know which are the ones where the stories hit us most, the ones that we really want people to remember.
Like, I agree. Because all of these are episodes that I remember and stories that I remember. And of course, like, not to say there's no others that I liked, but, you know, with my bad memory, like, to me, this tells me that this, like, got to me in a way. So.
Yeah, that's right. I'm also surprised that there's... I don't know if I'm surprised that there's such a widespread or that there's such a concentration, because we have representatives of every broad period except the Parthians.
Oh no.
Because we have a Sassanid, we have an Achaemenid, and we have 2 Seleucids,
that
which
makes
I wouldn't
sense,
have
though,
expected.
because isn't the Parthians where we have really little sources?
That's true, yeah. In our previous pair of rounds, the only Parthians we had were Mithridates II and Musa.
Yeah.
Everybody else, broadly there. We had a bunch of Sassanids that were kicked out, but ultimately I am impressed with... actually, the 2 Seleucids that made their way through into this series of rounds made it to the semifinal, so that's very impressive. So good for them. Good stories. And it's also pretty cool that I had never heard of Antiochus III before I did this research.
Oh my god.
And I only vaguely knew about Khosrow II and Seleucus before, so...
That feels like a crime.
Exciting that we have learned things on this journey.
Yeah. Like, knowing them now, that makes me mad.
Yeah, exactly. They're cool people. We should know more about them. They're fun. But yeah, so thank you all for listening. We hope you enjoyed this last of the rounds, and will be ready to join us for the semifinals later on. In the meantime, if you'd like to support us, there are many ways to do that. You can buy our merch. There's the link to our merch store in the description of the episode. You can find t-shirts, mugs, posters, a bunch of cool stuff to adorn your house with. We also have a Patreon where you can support us for a monthly fee. You get a bunch of extra episodes. You'll get to vote for the future extra episodes that we'll be about. So that'll be exciting. That's nice. And it just allows us to continue doing this. And I can pay for books and stuff, which is always helpful because academic books are expensive.
That's the most expensive part of this. That and feeding Umberto.
Yes. Also, yes, I am hungry. If instead you'd rather not support us monetarily, that's fine. We just appreciate if you give us a review in your podcast app of choice. Do tell us, do you agree with our choices so far? Is there an uncut gem that we didn't value properly that you really want to tell people about? Go for it. Tell us. We're really curious. It's great to know. And yeah, that is all we had for today. Thank you very much for listening. And we hope you'll join us next time for the first semifinal with Darius the Great versus Seleucus I. Goodbye.